Memory transcription subject. Governor Tava of the Venal Republic. Date. Standardized human time. September 28th, 2136. Armed Kolshians steered us into the docking area, where we landed upon our arrival. Our previous shuttle was outfitted with supplies, since the chief granted us permission to return home on a prearranged route. The soldiers fell back several steps and monitored the human for any threatening moves. One of them curled their lip at me briefly. Noah settled down on an empty crate, clutching a knapsack that contained his meager belongings. He met the soldier's gaze without blinking. Staring was a contest of dominance, whether that was the intention or not. The Kolshians gripped their rifles tighter and slunk back towards the entryway. "You're gawked at all the time, Noah," I whispered. "Not saying it's right, but I don't suggest that smouldering stare down as a response. It'll tickle their instincts in ways you don't want." "I don't care how they look at me, but they're not going to look at you with disgust and hatred. If they want a problem, they can pick on someone their own size," he growled, loud enough for the guards to hear. Aggression and protectiveness were not the persona to exhibit, on the verge of our first diplomatic encounter. The Federation representatives would see it as a predator cowing his observers. I appreciated his loyalty, but humans were a little too defensive of their friends at times. Those soldiers were entitled to their opinions. "Thank you, but it's fine. A lot of people think I'm a disgrace to the Federation and aren't happy that I imprison their people." I studied the guards' expressions, noticing how their scowls deepened at my words. Nikonus didn't even discuss consequences for the Venlil. "So you agree with them? You had noble reasons for what you did. They can't find fault with that." "Well, I have single-handedly fractured the Federation beyond repair. I guess that makes me a traitor to most folks." "You're a hero to all of humankind, Tava. 12 species in the galaxy who would even try to befriend us. We met what might be the only one who would try, before there was a shred of proof to our claims. Don't think we'll forget what the Venlil have risked." I pressed a claw to my lips and flicked my ears toward the doorway. The soldiers had snapped to attention, breaking their deadlock with the irate predator. That could only mean someone was approaching. The human needed to make a good first impression. Flattering us at the expense of the rest of the galaxy wasn't going to win hearts and minds. A violet-skinned Kolshian padded into the hangar bay, clearly resisting the urge to grab his sidearm. His steps faltered once he was within pouncing distance of Noah, like a magnetic force was repelling him from the human. The familiar officer crept to my side, using me as a living shield. "How has he still not grasped that Noah doesn't have a violent bone in his body? Didn't our journey here prove that much?" The Terran ambassador grinned. "Recel, I was worried you were rotting in a cell." The Kolshian rubbed his forehead. "I was, until the Commonwealth finalized our decision on humanity. Chief Nikonus agreed that I had a moral imperative to intervene, and pardoned me on all counts. I did receive a disciplinary mark for my methods, though." "What do you mean?" Noah asked. "While Nikonus agrees with my rationale, we can't have officers running around shooting their captains. I don't think I had time to go through proper channels, but whatever." "I see, so you're free. Why did you come here of all places?" "Nikonus offered me an appointment as military liaison to Earth, and I accepted." My eyes widened, as did the ambassador's dilated ones. I thought that Recel hated being around predators. By his own admission, living around humans was a nightmare for him, and he couldn't fathom prolonged exposure to them. Noah stroked his chin in confusion. "You want to be around predator generals and talk about war tactics? Don't you hate the thought of having one of us within 100 miles? "Forgive me if I've caused offense, Noah. Seeing your chemistry with Tava, I think we could be great friends." The Kolshian shuddered as he tried to meet the predator's gaze. "Others seem to adapt quicker and easier than me, but I don't want to give up. Truly." Do you think you can work past your fear? I asked gently. Have you identified what triggers such a severe reaction? I enlisted on a starship when I was 9. I don't recall another way to feel toward predators. It may take an unreasonably long time for me to work past those behaviors, and it would take considerable coaxing from you all. I can't imagine what this is like from Noah's perspective. I'm not sure I'd have the patience. If you like a different liaison, I understand. Sympathy flashed in Noah's eyes. Recel, we are willing to help you every step of the way. I just don't know why you want to endure those feelings. It seems unfair to you. Humanity made me realize we are stronger than the sum of our fears. That there is something other than being afraid. I haven't got there yet, but I'm grateful for that. Can you accept my apology? There's nothing to forgive. Your emotions are out of your control. The edge dissipated from the human sonorous voice, replaced by a warm tone. We'll figure this out together, no matter how long it takes. Great. Now, there's other diplomats coming, so I'm going to make some preparations. Recel skittered off to the farthest corner of the hangar bay and began prepping a second shuttle. That was a smart idea, since it was unlikely the entire crowd would fit in a single vessel. Hell, I doubted some of them would want to ride in a tiny box with a human for days. The first officer was probably thrilled to charter his own ship for that exact reason. I watched the Kolshian shoot furtive glances toward us, and pondered why his species hadn't agreed to full diplomatic relations. Chief Nikonos didn't appear hostile to humanity, and displayed more fairness than I anticipated. The prospect of harm befalling Noah seemed to offend him, even. When my expectations were little more than a farcical hearing, a genuine debate was astounding. I guess Nikonos didn't propose a full partnership, because he doesn't believe humans can reciprocate their cordiality in a meaningful way. Nonetheless, I thought the Kolshian Commonwealth might come around as an ally. They had already seized the initiative by sending a military liaison. Even those guards were angered by my lack of accountability rather than Noah's presence. Maybe it was just too large of a leap for most governments to make at once. Our Zerillian ambassador, Chorson, skittered into the room. Something seemed to have been bashed against his head, and green blood trailed down his snout. The furry scientist looked unsteady on his feet, but it was a good sign that he wasn't shy of Noah in his wounded state. It violated every prey instinct to wander up to a predator like this. Noah squinted with concern. Are you all right, Chorson? Please, let me take a look at that. What happened? I gasped. The Zerillian sighed. A bunch of people rushed to leave the chamber when the fighting broke out. Someone clubbed me over the noggin. I didn't see who. Probably because I testified with a generous view on humanity. The pandits think I swayed some hostile votes to undecided. All that? For sharing a synopsis of human morality? Noah said. I'm sorry, I never wanted you to be assaulted. It's fine. The scientist licked a foreleg absent-mindedly, smoothing out the brown fur. I'll look tougher now, when I force you to take me to your planet. Even Tava won't go to Earth. Why not? You haven't invited her? It's complicated, but Elias Meyer, our leader, extended the invitation. Had a herbivorous banquet, live music, and a tour of New York City in the works. Tava refused. I swished my tail with indignation. It's a different story after the experiments, Noah. You think I was going to wander into a city with 10 million predator residents, less than a month after we met, before anyone ever saw how you behaved in packs? Noah opened his mouth to respond, but snapped it shut, as he saw Chief Nikonos leading the group of diplomats toward our ship. These must be the species that constituted the affirmative votes for open relations with Earth. None of them had been brave enough to make introductions yet. Our Zerillian friend was the sole exception. It didn't surprise me to see the Sivkits, or the Palatons, in the mix. Their centrally located territories were far enough away that they thought they could keep humanity at arm's length, and control or minimize the interactions. Even predators wouldn't start that off the beaten path to gain a foothold, Us neighbouring species were easier to invade first. Then there were the Yotl, the latest uplifts. Adapting to the galactic arena was difficult for a species that just discovered steam power. I couldn't imagine how the Venlor would have processed the Federation's vast knowledge in our infancy. Of course, if the Yotl's industrialism tipped us off to their presence, the Arxor might find them too. It was the lesser evil to flood them with information and give them a fighting chance. 22 cycles after first contact, the Marsupials tired of the derision from their counterparts. Most species dismissed them as primitive, with a poor scientific understanding, and little to offer as allies. The Federation military saw the Yotl as a liability, and wouldn't take their suggestions seriously. Gaining the backing of predators was a calculated risk, to coerce some respect from their peers. So far, no surprises. The Frafki seek protection since there's only about 12,000 members of their species left alive. Well, not in captivity. The Nevox and Physons are trading juggernauts that don't want to go the way of the Godjeds. I squinted in apparent confusion. Was that the Mazik president among their ranks? Perhaps this was not the assemblage of friendly species after all. It wasn't even a personal representative or aide. He was the only official dignitary I observed in the group. Noah tensed, as he also spotted the bay-skinned mammal. I doubted my friend had forgotten who interrupted him at every turn. Kupo was rather outspoken against humanity, mocking the Terran ambassador for his eyes, and criticizing simple arguments. Is the alien with the trunk just here to make trouble? The Mazik, you said, the human whispered, echoing my thoughts. Them and the Krakotl were the ones who couldn't stand my presence. Kupo swished his trunk. Your closing argument about the hypothetical of friendship was profound. We are, in fact, desperate enough that there is nothing to lose. Am I not welcome here? I didn't mean for you to overhear that comment, Mazik. My apologies. If you desire diplomacy, I would not turn you away. Noah lowered his voice to his minimum and pursed his lips in mistrust. Damn, Tava, those massive ears must be sharp. I snorted. No, your ears are just bad. The human sighed. That's hardly the worst thing you've said about us. I studied the waiting crowd. While the injured Nikonas bore no intention of making the journey to Venlor space, he opted to send us off himself. There was more sharpness in his gaze than fear. He wasn't shaking or whining the way Recel did. Though I appreciated the officer's efforts. Perhaps there were better candidates to represent the Kolshians. As for the newcomers, the Zerillian was prancing around the human in circles. Chorson couldn't contain his excitement. He was the only ally eager to get up close and personal with the flesh-eater. Meanwhile, the Sivkit diplomat looked like she was about to pass out, standing across from her predator. Logical talk of borders and distance didn't mean much when she was going to be trapped in its lair. The Mazik president had the same suspicion in his eyes from the pivotal meeting. I don't think he trusted Noah's demeanor not to shift the second we took flight. There was a docile representative present, I realized, but the tiny rodent was hiding behind Kupo's bulky form. That size differential could only make the lumbering predator more daunting. That makes my count 10 species, plus the Kolshians. Maybe the last one is running late for some reason. Their representative might have had a panic attack. You're going to take the Yotl? I thought humans already invented the wheel. The Nevok representative sneered. A few chuckles came from the gathering, and even the Kolshian chief struggled to maintain a neutral expression. The Yotl glowered at his critic, then fired a nervous glance toward the human. I suppose the general assumption was that predators would shun any species with weaker technology. It was tough to imagine that friendship was their end rather than their means. If anything, I think supposed weakness roused the Terran's protectiveness. Noah and Sarah were most partial to us in our moments of vulnerability. Judging by how my friend's lips curved down, he wasn't pleased with the Nevok's humiliation of their peer. We have plenty to offer, Tosser, the marsupial snapped. Maybe these predators will be less stupid than you, and see that. Tulsa flicked her ears. Like what? Name one thing that makes you valuable, especially compared to the rest of us. For one thing, we're the only ones here who weren't around for that vote. You know, the one where you unanimously decided to wipe out all life on Earth. Even the Ven'll have that baggage. Silence fell over the assemblage. Trepidation played in the representatives' expressions, as the fiery Yotl reminded them of their prior decisions. Perhaps I could afford to issue a formal apology on that matter myself, though it hadn't been my government that arrived at that conclusion. It must be tough for the Predators to forget our role in their planned extinction. Humanity welcomes all parties of all backgrounds. The ambassador cleared his throat, irritation flashing in his eyes. There's no need for divisive rhetoric, or to prove yourselves by putting others down. We're a small group. We need to band together. He's right. There's too much at stake here. Quit acting like children, I growled. Gosh. On that unpleasant note, I must warn you that siding with us may put you at odds with your friends and neighbors. This is your last chance to turn back. Noah blinked in surprise as every party lingered. That was a risk they already considered leaving the acrimonious conference. Alright then, let's board a shuttle and get this show underway. The UN would be delighted to receive a proper diplomatic envoy, but I knew I had to temper their expectations. There would be missteps along the way, and few species would act as casual as us. It took a long time to be comfortable around predators. Familiarity was the final phase of the adjustment period, which certain prey sapients might never achieve. At least now, humanity knew where they stood with the Federation.